William Gillespie was a senior salesman and law clerk at the Abbeyliex Carpet Factory and one of the few male employees. The factory had a reputation for beautiful, high-quality carpets, boasting prestigious customers and supplying carpets to the Mansion House in Dublin and the Cunard shipping line. Their most famous customer was the White Star shipping line, including the ill-fated Titanic. The Titanic carpet order was the last recorded entry in the factory order books before its closure in 1912. William lived with his mother Eliza above the Coffee Palace Cafe on Market Square. The Gillespie family lived on the grounds of the Abbeyleix estate until his father, Richard Gillespie, died in 1908. Eliza moved with William to the town of Abbeyleix and opened the Coffee Palace Cafe. The Titanic, the Queen of the Sea, was about to embark on her maiden voyage, offering William an incredible opportunity to travel on the world's most famous passenger ship, advance his career and see Canada and North America, where he hoped to make sales and connections that would expand the carpet business. William purchased his ticket for the Titanic from Patrick Ryan, the agent for the White Star Line at Morrissey's on Main Street, Abbeyleix, for £13. His destination was Harwood Street, Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. William boarded the Titanic in Southampton, England. Its first stop was Cherbourg and then on to Cove, Cork, where the Titanic set sail for the last time on the 11th of April 1912. While most Irish passengers travelled third class, William sailed in the relative luxury of second class. 4 days later, on the 14th of April 1912, the Titanic struck an iceberg in the North Atlantic off the coast of Newfoundland near Canada. 1,500 people died. William's body was never found. If you visit Abbeyleix, you will find his name inscribed on the side of his father's headstone in the graveyard of St. Michael's Church, described as lost on the Titanic. He was 31 years old. In the brief span of 4 years, Eliza had lost both her husband and her son. Her remaining son Daniel had emigrated to New York years before and had fallen out of contact with his family in Ireland. Eliza received compensation from the Titanic Disaster Fund for losing her son. She continued running the coffee shop until her death 2 years later, in January 1914. Over 10 years later, William's brother Daniel tried to contact his family back home in Abbeyleix. It had been 20 years since he had spoken to them or heard from them. Believing his brother, William was working in Dublin as a clerk. Daniel, who worked as a painter in Brooklyn, never married. He died on the 15th of August, 1929, aged 47. The correspondence that follows refers to his search.
There's Aaron, Lindsay Crawford, Irish Free State Trade Agent, 1 Broadway, New York City. February 16, 1926. The Secretary, Department of External Affairs, Dublin. Akara, I have been asked by Mr. Daniel James Gillespie, 100 South Elliott Place, Brooklyn, New York, to help him to get in touch with his brother, Mr. William Henry Gillespie, who he believes is now residing in Dublin and engaged in the grocery business. He states that it is about 20 years since he last heard from him. He was born in Carlow and reared in Abbeyleix. Mr. Gillespie would appreciate any help that might be given him in his efforts to establish contact with his brother. Misha Lamas, Lindsay Crawford.
8th of March, 1926. Commissioner Garda Síochána. I am directed by the Minister for Justice to state that Mr. Lindsay Crawford, Irish Free State trade agent in New York, has represented to this department that Mr. Daniel James Gillespie, 100 South Elliott Place, Brooklyn, New York, is anxious to get in touch with his brother, Mr. William Henry Gillespie. The latter is believed to be resident in Dublin and engaged in the grocery business. He was born in Carlow and reared in Abbeyleix. Please ask the local Gardaí to make an effort to trace the whereabouts of Mr. William Henry Gillespie.
I am directed to enclose herewith copy of letter received from the trade agent in New York concerning an inquiry relative to the whereabouts of Mr. William Henry Gillespie, brother of Mr. Daniel James Gillespie, of 100 South Elliott Place, Brooklyn, New York. I am directed to request your department to be good enough to have the necessary inquiries made. Sean O'Muracle. Ific an Commissionera, Baile Cluiche, 12th of April, 1926. With reference to your letters of the 8th ultimo and 7th instant regarding the whereabouts of a Mr. William Henry Gillespie, I am directed by the Commissioner to inform you that the above named was lost in the Titanic disaster some years ago. This information can be considered reliable as it was obtained from Mr. James Wilde of Hoare Wilde Brothers, Abbeyleix, who was married to a sister of William Henry Gillespie. Liam O'Mirta, last Commissioner.